Hi there, Mike MacArthur from the Oshkosh Public Library, here with some more Librarian Learns. This is the series where I take a look at a bit of Oshkosh history that I've been asked about or that I've wondered about myself while working at the library and, just living my life. So today, I'm going to take a look at the history behind some of the names and places throughout the city. So you just can't name, a street anything. Otherwise, you might end up with, the Butthead Memorial Park. So we're going to go around town and look at a couple of the places that I found interesting that I feel give some interesting tidbits to Oshkosh's history that you probably drive down or through or past every single day. So let's go. So I'm here on the corner of Main and Algoma. There are a lot of Native American names on streets and places in Oshkosh. First being here, Algoma, which is Algonquin for the waters or lake. And Main is, English for the main street. Anyway, interestingly enough, Algoma was originally the main street. You see it back when Oshkosh and, Algoma were formed. Algoma was Main Street, and what we know as Main Street here was actually Ferry Street, named for the ferry that was down on the river. It wasn't until about 1868 that these streets were renamed to their current names. Then, of course, there's South Main, which was originally Kansas Street up until like 1897-ish, until it became South Main. So, not confusing at all, really. So you're also going to see a lot of streets named for early settlers and kind of landowners who were in the area. For example, Bowen, named originally for Abraham Briggs Bowen, who was a landowner here and had built a rather large house in 1855, which actually still exists down the street on Bayshore Drive. Other streets around here is you have Harney Street. That was named for Richard J. Harney, who was a surveyor, map maker, historian. He wrote a book, an early Winnebago history that gets cited a lot, first published in 1879. You also have up the way Evans Street, named for David Evans, a pioneer and grocery store owner in the area. So here I am in the River East neighborhood. Behind me is Stevens Park. This was named for Ephraim Eldoris Stevens, otherwise known as the park's the park's mayor. It wasn't the president, it was the mayor. Stevens was born in May and moved here as a child in 1852. He grew up and then worked as a mason and then later as an architect. Got into politics and he was an alderman for the area around here, the 4th Ward, several times before being elected mayor in 1889. It was in 1889 that he initiated the purchase of a large plot, 63 acres of land along Lake Winnebago. That would become North Park and then later be renamed Menominee Park. He also initiated the purchase of South Park as well. But it was the land along Lake Winnebago that he kind of was lambasted for purchasing. It was $25,000 paid out in $5,000 increments over the next several years. And the people on the Common Council thought he was an idiot for doing this. He overpaid for it. The land wasn't that great. It was, mostly marsh at the time. And, Oshkosh at the time wasn't very developed. You had beautiful natural land all over the place. So he pushed this through with a little bit of controversy and some shenanigans. I think time, proved him right. The park here, the land was purchased in July of 1968, and in 1974 it was officially named for the park's mayor, Stevens. And speaking of Menominee Park, I thought I'd take a look at a couple of the other names within Menominee Park. I was always wondering, Pratt Trail, who's that? Well, interestingly enough, there's several trails that go through Menominee Park that are all named for mayors. Back in the 1960s, they renamed these for several influential mayors. Pratt was actually the mayor who succeeded Stevens after he decided not to run. He had also been mayor in the 30s a couple of times too. And way up at the north side of the park, you have Oaks Trail here, named for Mayor George F. Oaks, who was mayor during the war years, about 39 through 47. And intersecting Pratt Trail, you have Sievert, who is named for the mayor who succeeded Oakes in 1947. You get a street, you get a street, you get a street. Good for you, mayors. So if I'm in Menominee Park, I kind of have to address the biggest mystery of why is it called that, and that is, as you see behind me, Monkey Island. So, in line with everything else, it was obviously named after Cornelius A. Monkey, a Civil War veteran who, I'm just kidding, we don't know why it's called Monkey Island ultimately. So the island Viceniu started out as a breakwater built in 1913 by the Oshkosh Yacht Club, to kind of protect the moorings and boats here. It was expanded in, I believe, the 60s and used by the water treatment plant as kind of a pre-treatment basin, whatever. So, it was expanded, they put trees on it. So the question is always, why Monkey Island? So if you ask people who grew up around here in the 50s, they will swear to you that, well, some of them will swear to you that monkeys actually were on the island at some point. I don't buy it, really. It kind of just doesn't make sense why anybody would purposely put monkeys out there. Now, of course, there are monkeys in the Menominee Park Zoo, and in 1952 they did get out and kind of were up in the trees for a little bit before they were captured, but I don't think they ever made it onto Monkey Island itself. But then, why is it called Monkey Island? Well, it hasn't always been called Monkey Island. It was called numerous things before. At one point, Government Island. I don't think we'll ever know. It clearly a nickname that stuck. I wish we had monkeys, on the island here, but they probably would have froze to death in winter. So hey, I learned something. If you like these videos and want to continue to see more, hit like, hit subscribe, share, comment. What are some other place names that I missed that you always wondered? Who is that? What is that? Why is that called that? Let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to find out why. And with that, I shall see you later.